All right, greetings, everybody. I'm getting ready. Hopefully, we are here and everyone can hear me, and we're getting ready to start. I just jumped off of one Zoom, and I have to jump right here on this one as we continue on with our Manifest Monday. I'm checking my devices to make sure that we are on. That we are on all the platforms. So, if you would give me a moment while I do that, I would be so gracious to let me see here. Okay, so I can see that I'm doing well on that one. If you're in, check in, please. Hello, Liz. Hello, Pastor Bettina. If you will, check in while I pull up all my, so I don't miss anybody, so I can pull up the places that I'm supposed to be on and make sure that I am live wherever I'm supposed to be live at. All righty. So, all right, you're good to go. Hello, Daisy. How are you doing? I'm looking and making sure I got everybody. Hello, Henrietta. Glad to have you on today. And as you can see, I said last month, Monday, that we were going to be June and July. We're going to be talking about change rather, and the benefits of it. And I just want to continue to talk about that on today. I don't want to hold you long. I want to make sure that we're all listening and that everything is coming out right. So please, I want to make sure I'm centered here. All right. So if you can, good afternoon. And I'm going to make sure that I recognize everybody that I can see that is on. I see that there's at least 12 people watching, but I only have a few people that have signed in. So if you're on, if you would for me, please just check in so I can say hello to you. I said hello to Pastor Bettina, Liz, Daisy, and Henrietta. If there's anyone else, let's go ahead and check in. Let me know that you're on. And as always, I always forget, I don't mention it to the end. If you would please share on your page, it would be greatly appreciated so everybody can know. Hello, son. I pray that you're enjoying your time and enjoying your time and you and my daughter are enjoying yourselves. Look forward to when you guys get back. You're missed greatly. All right, let me just jump right on into this so that we can get going. Last week I told you that there was 4 types of changes, and I just want to repeat those before we move on. I want to make us sure that we understand the types of changes that we happen in our lives. The one change that I told you about, it was a change that happens to us. That's unexpected or anticipated changes that affect our personal lives, our family lives, our careers, and so forth. So these are things that happen to us, car accidents, definite fact. These are changes that happen to us, and they're unexpected, and we didn't anticipate these changes, but they do come about. Change number 2 is change that happens around us, unexpected and anticipated change that affect our society, nation, world, that also have some impact on us personally on the way of and on our lives. And we can look at our country. There are things that are happening around us that are affecting us and how we operate and how we move and even how we live in this society that we're in. Then there's a change that happens within us. That's unexpected and anticipation change that directly affects who we are, whether it's physically, emotionally, mentally, or spiritually. Physically, if there's something wrong with our, physically that we can't do something that we used to do. Emotionally, things happen that cause our emotions to get out of tune. Mentally, there are some things that causes us to move beyond the stress level. Spiritually, some things in our lives spiritually that are not lining up, and those things can change within us. Those are the things that change within. Then there are the changes that we initiate. Like, we decide that we want to lose weight. We decide that we're going to change how we eat. Those are things that we've planned, we've created, and we've altered plans to implement these in order to move us from one place to another, from where we are to a preferred future. So those are things that we initiate, and we can identify each of the changes that we just talked about, and they may develop some overlap in them. We talked about that there may be an overlap in them, but what are the results of change? When we look at change as it is holistically, what are the results of change? Results of changes are like this. Change transports the present into a future that demands a response. I need to say that again. Change transports the future into the present into a future. I'm sorry. Change transfers the present into a future that demands a response. So when I change here, it is into a future that demands a response. So if I say that I want to lose weight, that's a change that I'm talking about presently that is going to demand a response for the future. In order for me to lose the weight that I'm planning to do, that the change that I want to make, then I have to do something so that in the future I can meet that goal. In other words, if I want to lose weight, I'm going to have to exercise, and do some cardio. I'm going to have to do some weights. I'm going to have to change some eating habits. I may have to let go of some sweets. I may have to do soda, whatever it is. I have to make these changes so that I can affect a response in the future. Often that response requires further changes from us. Sometimes, and one of the things, I used to be a personal trainer. I know it's hard to believe, but I was a personal trainer when I got out of the Marine Corps. I used to work at the gyms. And as a certified personal trainer, we were taught how, people will come in usually in January and they go, hey, I want to lose weight. I want to lose weight now. Well, you, especially around the ball time, ladies, and even in the January, they would come in, everybody wants to lose weight. Well, okay, it took you some time to put that on. It's going to take some time to take it off effectively. Yeah, you can do, I would see people sitting in the sauna with those rubber suits on or whatever, sauna things on, and sweating, dangerous because you dehydrating your body. You could, I would always tell, don't go in there with those things on and sweating, because all you're doing is a temporary change, because as soon as you drink water, you've already gone back again. You got to do something that's going to change over the course of your life. So you need to make sure that whatever you do is going to require you to make some changes that may result in changes over the course of your life. The factor that of the need of change may bring positive activity, excitement, anticipation, energetic planning, or it may bring a negative reaction, uncertainty, stress, and emotional shutdown. If what you're planning to do puts you under such a stressful thing, it's unhealthy, and it becomes negative rather than positive. And it could bring about stress, and it could cause you to shut down. How we react to change has greater consequences to us than we may realize. How we react to it has greater consequences than we may ever imagine. Imagine that you were transported 100 years into the future. The change would have taken place in your nation and in your home and in your world would be such that you would hardly recognize your own community. Abruptly coming into a transformed world would be a drastic encounter with change. Almost everything familiar that you were familiar with on a day-to-day basis would have been gone. Family, friends, culture, ways of interacting with one another, the way of technology would have changed, communication would have changed, way of perceiving the world socially and politically and economically would have changed, and so forth and so on. The language could have even evolved. Your words can even, speech patterns would seem point to those in the 22nd century. You would be so disoriented as someone from a first decade of the 20th century trying to figure out what an iPod is. Someone that came before to now, like, what is an iPod? Even when we talk to kids, like, we used to have phones where you had to dial it, or we had phones where there were party lines where you picked up, and if somebody was on, you had to wait till they get off before you could talk. We went to phone booths to make phone calls. There was no answer machine on the phone when I grew up. You call somebody, they didn't answer, you had to call back. All those, but if you take somebody from that era who lived there and that time and never moved from that time and put them in today's society, they would be confused, lost, and just utterly devastated, because they wouldn't understand. What do you mean I can you mean I can get on and see myself and people can see me even though I can't see them? I can get on a Zoom call and see people all over the world. Those things were not quaint in the 1950s and 1960s and even the 1970s. So now we are here in a place, and that would be devastating to us. And we would have to see that even our language could change. Even now, things that I used to say when I was growing up that we thought was cool, people you hear today that, what are you talking about? Even when I talk about different songs or movies, most people have never heard of their name. I was shocked to find out that a lot of kids know nothing about history. of their culture. Nothing. You bring up a name, they don't know who you're talking about. But you can tell them who's what singer, they can tell you all of that, but they know nothing about their culture. So we have to understand that change can be positive and change can be negative. I don't know how many of you ever watched the movie Shawshank Redemption. I love that movie, but there's a character named Brooks. And Brooks is paroled from the penitentiary. And Brooks having been out of society, he had been out of society for 5 decades. I mean, 50 years Brooks had been in prison. He went to prison during the first decade of the 20th century and is released in the 1950s. So he went in like in 1900 and came out in 1950. 1900 to 1950, Brooks was incarcerated in prison. He considered, when they were getting ready to let him out, he considered even killing somebody because he would be charged so that he could be charged with assault or murder and could stay in prison. People can be in there so long to become institutionalized that that becomes their norm. They don't know anything else. That's why a lot of people who get out after being in for that long end up being reoffenders so they can go back. They say, I want to go back home because it's like home to them because they've been in there. Can you imagine being locked up in prison for 50 years and then being let out? Let's just say the 1950s and being let out in 2000. Can you imagine the great gulf of technology, communication, driving, everything that would have come to them when they get out in 2000 after they was incarcerated in 1950? The culture shock, thank you, Daisy, would be so much so that it would overwhelm them and would be devastating to them, and they may even offend again to go back to what they know is norm. So here we have Brooks. He has been in there so long. He when he gets out, he talks to his friends, however, and they talk him out of trying to kill somebody or hurt somebody, and so that he gets released from prison as scheduled. He boards a bus that will take him into town while he's leaving. Where he will be living at a house, halfway house, and working at a grocery store, bagging groceries. Can you imagine? You've been in prison all this time. Now you're on a bus, and the bus is going fast. You have never been on a bus that can go 35 or 45 miles an hour. You don't know what that's like because you went in the 1900s, the horse and buggies, trolley cars maybe, but not a bus that can go that fast. And the bus speed is you're probably, he was there clutching the seat because the speed was overwhelming to him. His expression of fear contrast to those who was sitting on there like this is an everyday thing for them. Brooks had no frame of reference. He had no frame of reference for what others took completely for granted. I can't believe how fast things move on the outside, he writes to his family and friends. If everything about his life is unfamiliar, foreign, Brooks has nightmares in which he's falling. I'm tired of being afraid all the time, he says. That was what change can do to us if we don't have a progressive time of changing. If while he was incarcerated from 1900 to 1950s, and he saw the evolution of things that were going on in the world, then when he got out in the year 1950, it wouldn't have been so traumatic for him because he would have known what's going on. Sometimes some of us get so stuck in where we are right now that we don't look to see that where we are right now is not going to always be that way. And we have to be able to make changes in order to be able to function in the future. If we don't make the changes in the present, we will have a disastrous time in the future for things that God has for us. We have to look at change. I know myself, I have changed so much over the last almost 70 years of my life. I look back and I looked at how I've progressed and how, excuse me, things that I used to think were ironclad that I would never move away from, I've moved away from. I remember when I didn't believe in women being ministers or preaching or teaching men. I really remember when I believed that a woman's place was to be in. I remember when I believed that I would never have people up doing miming or dancing. Those were what I thought at that time. But when I learned about the fact of needing to change in order to effectively reach the community and the people that I pastor, then I realized, and you're right, Daisy, change equals growth. When you change, you grow. And the Sanctuary Church, we started out as Spirit and Truth Worship Center Church. It changed to the Sanctuary Church. And like I said, so let me give you an inside look at how that came about. When we started this church in 2004, it was Spirit and Truth Worship Center. Spirit and Truth Worship Center. No, I'm sorry, Spirit and Truth, Worship Center Church. That's what we started out. John 4:24. God gave us that. We started. Some years ago, God spoke to my spirit that I want to change the name. I want you to change the name to the Sanctuary. I'm like, you don't change the name of your church. You lose your identity when you change your name. People don't even know what to look for. But the reason of the change was I want you to create a place where people can come in and feel safe and be able to make a change in their lives while they're recovering from the harm that has been brought in their lives, whether by the church, whether by the outside world, whatever it was. I need a safe place for the people to come in to be able to grieve and repair themselves for the injuries that they received. And now that I see why God, he started it before the pandemic to get us ready for this. Because the church after the pandemic looks nothing like the church before the pandemic. And the God was preparing us for the change of what was going to happen to the Sanctuary Church after the post-pandemic. Post-pandemic, the people that are coming into the sanctuary, I'm talking about change, coming into the Sanctuary Church are way different than the ones that were in the Sanctuary Church before. The people that are coming in now don't have the church lingo. They don't have all the church jargon, but they're hungry for learning about God. They want to know God. They want a change in their life. And so the thing that happened to Brooks in the Sanctuary Redemption, he couldn't handle on the outside, and tragically he took his own life. He took his own he took his own life. He came back one day and he actually hung himself. He took his own life. Commenting on Brooks' situation. Then you got Red. He gestures to the prison walls, around him. Now this is Red, the other character, outside the courtyard, and said, "I'm telling you, these walls are funny. At first, you hate them, then you get used to them. Enough time passes, so you get so that you depend on them." Did you hear that? First, you hate them, then you get used to them, and then you depend on them. Okay, let me try that. Let me try that again. First, you hate them, then you depend on them, then you get used to them, rather, and then you depend. It's like how we are about our own selves. We'll get stuck into something. First, we hate the thing, then we become so anesthetized to it that we begin to like what we hate. We begin to get used to what we hate. We begin to look at what we hate to be the norm. And then eventually, the thing that we started out hating is now the thing that we depend on. That's what not making changes in your life can do for you. Similar is the effect of failing to implement positive change to improve one's life can range from someone missing out on a single rewarding experience to fulfilling his or her desire for purposeful life. I remember for years, Pastor Mayer was always telling me, "I want to go to Africa." And I said, I had no desire to go to Africa. I don't want to go to Africa. I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I don't want to go. And when the opportunity came to go and we went, I'm so thankful that I went, because it was a reward. I could have missed a rewarding experience by being so stuck on not wanting to go. Israel, I had no desire to go to Israel, but I'm glad I did, because the experience I had changed my life. Both of those experiences have changed how I look at things, even scriptural wise, personal wise, ethnic wise, cultural wise. And most of the above scenario, the people reacting negatively to change experiences law. You look at Brooks, he died. But Red, because he had a letter from the guy who said, if you get out and you read this, if you get out, I want you to go to this place, and then I want you to go by this rock. And he pulls up this box, and he opens the box. In the box is a letter. It tells him, you remember I talked to you about San Juan Tantanopo? I can't remember the place in Mexico he was at. But remember I told you, he said, here's the money. Come and see me. Red was determined. Even though he didn't understand all the changes around, he was determined not to be like Brooke and allow being out to cause him to kill himself. He thought about it. But he read that little thing on the board, and I think he came to his mind and said, I can't do this. And I need some of you to know and say this today, I can't do this. I cannot continue on not wanting to make changes. I need to make changes in myself. I need to make changes in how I do things. I need to make changes how I approach things. I need to make changes on how I communicate with people. I need to make changes in how I live my life so that I can have a better future and have a rewarding life and have a better purpose for my life. I thank you. I can do this. That's what change says. I can do this. And we got to be willing to make those changes. Some things are very uncomfortable. I mean, we think I don't want to do that because I don't want to. It's just not. We don't think about whether or not it's what God wants us. We think about how uncomfortable it is to us. But you're being what God wants you to be and making the changes that you need to make, whether it's personal or spiritual or professional. Those changes are going to be important for you in order for you to be a person that God wants. We all need to make changes. I'm making changes even to this day. You're never too old to make changes. It's never too late to make changes. Changes for the good or for your benefit. And you pray, Lord, help me to see the things that I need to change in my life so that I can be a better servant for you, so that I can be a better husband, a better wife, a better mother, a better father, a better relative, better Christian, whatever it is. I want to make the necessary changes so that it'll be a benefit, not only for myself, but a benefit for the kingdom. We have to stop looking at things as from us. But I want to be a benefit. The changes that I make, I want to make as a benefit to the kingdom. Those are the things that I want to do. I need to change. It is essential to us to learn to oversee change rather than becoming its victim. We got to learn to oversee change rather than to become victim of change. And why we must initiate change rather than left behind by it. Change is going to happen. Whether you make it or not, change is going to happen. I preached a sermon said that the wagons keep on the dog's barking, but the wagon keeps on rolling. And change, and what that essentially says, people can be on the sideline barking at you, saying this ain't gonna work, you're gonna never do this, you're gonna never that. But the wagon train keeps on rolling while the dogs is still barking. The dogs will be left behind, but the train will keep on going. And we need to make sure that we don't be left behind in changes because we don't want to change. And the ongoing dynamic of change, therefore, is one of the most important factors of our lives. That's why I want to spend it this month. And I know it's a long 2 months, maybe for some to think about. I'm talking about the same thing, but I'm telling you, we're going to talk about this and we're going to hit it from all aspects, that I'm truly believing that by the end of the month, by end of August, before we go into the 9th month, that we're going to be so excited about change that when somebody says, I want to do something, we're going to do it like that. How you doing, Tina? We're going to do it like that. God says, I want you to do something. It's going to be just like that because we understand the benefits of what this change is going to do for us. How we relate to change has a significant impact on our quality of life, whether or not we accomplish what we are meant to do meant during our life on this earth, what we're supposed to do on our life on this earth. It's important. Understanding how to view, respond to, and benefit from change is vital to a well-balanced, fulfilled life. I'm going to say this again. for the benefit of Daisy. Understanding how to view, respond to, and benefit from. Understanding how to view, respond to, and benefit from change. Understanding how to view, respond to, and benefit from change is vital to a well-balanced and fulfilled life. Is vital to a well-balanced and fulfilled life. And that's true, Henrietta. I can do all things. So if I need to make changes, I can do it because I have God. I can do it. So when I look at things, I need to understand that how I view change, how I respond to change, and the benefits from change is vital to a well-balanced and fulfilled life. That's what I want to tell you today. That I'm still scratching on the intro and I haven't really got into the meat and potatoes. We're still having salad and we're still having bread before the salad come. Thank you, Al. We're just having bread before the salad come. We haven't even got to the soup or the salad. We're just having bread while they bring us and water while they're bringing us while we're looking over the menu. But next Monday, I'm going to talk to you about 5 different things. I'm going to talk to you about 5 principles of change. I'm going to talk to you about nothing on earth is as permanent as change. So I'm talking to you about the 5 principles of change. So you can start thinking about this. These 5 principles, nothing on earth is as permanent as change. Change is continual. Everything changes. Change is inevitable. And lastly, let me get the last one here, number 5. Change is inevitable, and change is a principle of life creation. So let me start all over so you can get, these are the 5 things we're going to talk about so you can get your mind ready for this. We're going to talk about nothing on earth is as permanent as change. Change is continual. Everything changes. Change is inevitable. And change is a principle of life and creation. So that's what we're going to talk about next week. I hope you're excited. I'm excited about what I'm telling you, this to me is one of the most exciting things I could ever have talked to you about for the beginning of this year, because I know it's time for us to make some changes in our lives. And to piggyback on this, Sunday, our service was just phenomenal. And it was fire. It was, I believe it was life-changing for the Sanctuary Church, because I didn't minister. We just praised and worshiped. People freely came to the altar and prayed. People came to the altar and got delivered. There were people that were crying and weeping, and that's what God wants us. And I truly believe because of that change in the atmosphere of the Sanctuary Church, there's a shifting happening in this atmosphere of the Sanctuary Church. And let me just say this to you. Those that are attached to the Sanctuary Church, I'm telling you that same change and shift that is happening in the Sanctuary Church is happening right now in your life. Because if you're attached to it, then it is you are a part of it. You get the benefit from being attached to what God is doing. So I love you. I thank you for being on for this time. I pray that you are blessed. And as always, at the place where I preach the most, the Sanctuary Church, where we love God, we love people, and we give hope. I love you, and there's nothing that you can do about it. And as always, I want you to know, how you doing, Danielle, that God loves you, and so do I. And as always, let's do this. Let's go to work, make some changes, and get it done.